On this episode of Money Matters with Jim Doyle, is retirement a journey or a destination? Our guests Barbara Mitchell, Nadine Jans, and Doris Orr share advice on preparing for the future. Plan more, worry less. This is Money Matters with Jim Doyle.
How do you view retirement? Are you retiring from something, or are you retiring to something? Are you an ageless explorer? In today's show, we're asking, have you planned financially and emotionally for the opportunities that retirement represents? Our guests are here today to help us dig into this. But first, I sent Paige to ask about exceeding your retirement expectations.
How do you plan to get the most out of your retirement?
Well, I think retirement's all about being comfortable in life, and not just financially, but to also be healthy and enjoy a full life and a simpler life. I think we all try to stress too much on materialism, and I think health is far more important than a lot of other things in life.
Financially, you've got to plan in advance, map out a few things, because you got to treat yourself, a few trips. But you need to be able to budget.
Well, I've semi-retired and we're doing lots of traveling. We're still kind of being dragged back into doing a little bit of part-time work, but we're enjoying it so far.
I think I've got to feel like I've got enough money and maybe a place to, be close to my kids.
We talk about the utopian dream, enjoying a full life, including a great retirement. Are we very good at doing it, Barbara?
Well, I think that we're really good at envisioning the perfect retirement, but when it comes to planning it, maybe not so good. There's so many different issues to consider. There's finances. Will I have enough money so that I can have the lifestyle that I want to continue with? Will my health be great? What kinds of activities do I want to engage in? There's so many different issues that we really need to think about in our planning.
So where are we falling down on that planning stuff?
I think that the models we used to have of Freedom 55 just really aren't applicable anymore. Many of us are anticipating a particular retirement time, but we find that we get there and we can't afford to retire. Maybe our kids have moved away and come back home. Our parents need help. There's so many complexities with retirement transitions in families right now.
Barbara was talking about using time. How are we going to use our time in retirement? Do you think people are well positioned for that discussion?
Oh, that's a really good point. So often a lot of people have ideas about what they want to do during retirement, but they're not prepared that retirement can be another 30 years, a couple of decades. So I see a lot of people who do what they want, they check off their bucket list, and then there's another couple years left.
How we use our time in retirement. Interesting concept. We'll be right back.
But even so, the importance of knowing that the relationship with our financial planner, not only in retirement, but for the decades up to retirement, was so critical.
In this segment, we're talking about what goes into planning, financially and emotionally, for retirement. Now, Barbara, do you think people focus on both aspects?
I think that most people probably worry about money more than anything else, because they wonder, am I going to have enough to be able to take me through to the end of my life?
Now, how many people hit retirement as a line in the sand and there's nothing on the other side of the line?
I think a lot, actually. I think there's two groups: people who can't wait till retirement and they think, finally, I can relax, I can have a fun time, I can do whatever I want. And there are people who don't think about retirement at all, and they avoid thinking of planning about it.
So Barbara, what do you say, when people have 40 years to plan for this day, and the day arrives and they go, where's my handbook?
Well, there is no handbook, first of all. So I think that it's really important that people do have a forward thinking approach to this, and to revisit that approach from time to time, because life circumstances, families are going to change. It's really important to consistently revisit those plans.
Now, I have to imagine that a 40-year-old's dream of retirement looks very different than a 60-year-old dream of retirement. How do we manage that?
So I think educating people about retirement and having people start early with planning, or even thinking about what they want in their lives and what they want to achieve.
Well, I love your idea of starting to plan early. I met up with Doris Orr, an executive who thought she had retired for good until she changed her mind. So, having retired once already, how has your view of retirement changed?
What I find is my view of retirement used to very much be focused on a sense of loss, that I would be losing an ability to contribute in a meaningful way and losing an ability to be the me who I'd always been.
Now, was that your retirement vision when you first retired?
No, my retirement vision when I first retired was that I had this great opportunity to do something really amazing with the next 30 plus years of my life in a way that was really going to add the most value and help me be the best me.
Now, your first retirement, was it a planned retirement?
It was planned, but a little bit earlier than anticipated. I ended up being in a situation where I felt like I wasn't being able to be the best me I could be. And so I was in a fortunate situation that I was able to retire with my husband, and quickly decided that I wanted to embrace that opportunity and make the most of my decades ahead.
So rediscovering that you had a lot of living to do in retirement.
Yes, and part of that rediscovering really was around recognizing that the importance that both my husband and I are accountants by training, but even so, the importance of knowing that the relationship with our financial planner, not only in retirement, but for the decades up to retirement, was so critical, because it gave us a sense to know that we could fully enjoy and embrace the things we wanted to do for the next 3-4 decades.
A sense of loss, fearing things you would lose as a result of retiring. Is that a pretty common experience?
Yeah, I think it is. I think a lot of people look at retirement loss, or they think they're old and that they're not able to do much anymore. Yeah, I think it's a common thought.
So for business owners, yesterday I was a successful business person, today I'm a retired person. How do you wear that?
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one to navigate. So many of us have put so much of our lives into certain work-related identities, and then all of a sudden to look forward to a time when that is gone can be quite challenging. And so I think it's really important that we all consider alternative ways of filling that gap.
Now, Nadine, I'm sure you have some responses to that thought.
I think that it's really important to consider retirement not as an end stage only. It's also an opportunity for new beginnings. And I think if we change our mindset around retirement, I think it can be a really exciting time in your life.
We got to pull the Band-Aid off. As Paige asks, is your retirement vision the same as your partner's?
When it comes to retirement, are you and your partner on the same page?
Definitely not. When I got married first, he was 8 years older than me, so it didn't make a difference. But now I'm 60 and he's 68, and it does make a difference. He retired, but he opted to go a more sedentary route than I did. So when I retired just back in December, I got active.
Yes, my husband and I are absolutely on the same page. We love the lower mainland of Vancouver. However, retirement for us will probably see somewhat of a slower pace and possibly a move up to the interior. We're all about being outdoors, enjoying life to its fullest, and just being happy being who we are.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're getting there. I think it's, as kids get older and move out of the house, I think we're more and more on the same page than probably when we were younger.
Yeah, we are. We want to enjoy the time we have because we have so many friends that are sick and not doing well, so we want to enjoy the times we have together.
Yes? No? In your opinion, what are some signs that you and your partner might not be on the same page when it comes to your retirement vision?
Oh, yeah. So there might be differences in health or age or interests. And when you find that your partner doesn't want to join you, when you want to go out or do things, or the other way around, that can be a problem, and that can be difficult to manage together.
So Barbara, if people aren't talking about this, should spouses be surprised when they find out they're not at the same page as their partner?
Well, I don't think so. If you haven't been having those kinds of conversations, it shouldn't be a surprise then that there's the great likelihood that people are not going to have a clue about these decisions.
Spouses on the same page. What an interesting concept. We'll be right back.
I think young people today look for instant gratification, spending money now and not saving for retirement.
It's said that a mighty oak starts from a tiny seed. Similarly, retirement well lived takes the same shape. We're talking about preparing ourselves financially and emotionally for life's great chapter. How do you think most Canadians respond to this?
So I think a lot of people view retirement as a stage in life where they can slow down and relax and do the things that they enjoy. And there's also a group of people who think retirement is about loss. It's about a part of life that we don't want to think about.
Trepidation, opportunity. Barbara, how do you think people should?
Well, personally, I think we should look at retirement as a wonderful journey and an opportunity. That being said, I know that many people do not view it that way. Some do view it with trepidation and concern and worry, while there are other people who are really looking forward to it.
Let's go back to Paige for some thoughts on overlooked financial aspects of retirement.
When it comes to planning for retirement from a financial point of view, what do you think many people tend to overlook?
I think there can be a tendency at the beginning to spend because you've got this big pile of money that you've got as a retirement lump sum. In Ireland you do. So people might feel that that's going to last forever, but it's not.
Probably two things. I mean, maybe, like I said, money's probably one of the things, and the other thing is probably maybe not preparing to have enough things to do and not to drive, your wife crazy, or not if your wife drive you crazy.
I think at a very young age, most people overlook the security of retirement. I think young people today look for instant gratification, spending money now and not saving for retirement. Although saving for retirement's very, very important, it's also important to enjoy your life and live a well-balanced life. But I think if I were to do it again, think a little bit more about what you need to do early on and get advice from financial planners or accountants.
As a planner, many retirees share with me their fears of running out of money in retirement. It's time we change that. What else do you think people might be overlooking when it comes to retirement preparedness?
I think that there's many areas that people can overlook. We don't know about our health and how that may change in the future. We may also not consider that the activities that we once enjoyed may change, and we may want to pick up new ones. So we need to also factor in the cost for that. And as couples, we also need to consider the decision making jointly, because there may be considerations that we're just thinking about ourselves when really we should be taking into account our partners and our family members as well.
So new interest, how we're going to spend our time, what are your thoughts on that?
It's really important already early on to create a vision and think about what do you want to do. Life doesn't end at retirement. Life continues, and there's a lot of opportunities that come up with retirement. And I think it's really important to think about what are you passionate about, what do you want to do, and be intentional about that.
For sure. The quality of life has got to be very important there in terms of a priority.
Let's go back to Doris for more on her personal journey. So knowing what you know now, what would you say are some of the key elements of good retirement planning?
I would say some of them to me very much based around having a long-term perspective. recognizing that retirement is a transition. It's a transition into a really, really great, beautiful phase of life, and recognizing that to be vibrant and healthy and to embrace it from a perspective of being a lifelong learner.
Do you think that was always part of your retirement vision?
Not at all. For me, my retirement vision was that I thought that I would continue working in a corporate executive role until I was well into my 60s, maybe into my 70s, and just have a very structured, rigid approach.
Now you mentioned something about lifelong learning. How does that fit in?
Lifelong learning is very much integral to who I am, and when I'm working with people and when I think about it myself, every single day I have an opportunity to learn, and for me it's really as much a mindset as it is a process. So I just approach each day with curiosity and try to figure out what is in today and how can I use the skills that I've gained over the past and the experiences in a way that I can really contribute to society and work in service of others.
Ageless adventurer, lifelong learner, volunteer maven, world's best grandparent. How do you think most people view retirement?
So a lot of people are not prepared to start making changes or take a different direction in their lives. They have a vision, maybe, but they don't expect that it will change maybe once they're in retirement.
What do you think?
I think that we have to be aware that life is full of changes and that we may have a perfect vision of retirement, but to be open-minded that things can change directions quickly as a result of health changes or becoming grandparents, picking up new hobbies. All of this to me presents exciting opportunities, but at the same time, as we know, it can be very challenging for some individuals.
Now we hear of people expiring after they've run out of things on their bucket list. How would you respond to that?
So it's so important for people to put things on a bucket list that they can do after retirement. But then once they have finished everything and they did everything they dreamed of and envisioned, people still have a lot of time left. And then they wonder, what's next? What am I going to do now?
What I heard was, never let your bucket list get empty. Who knew retirement could be so fun? We'll be right back.
Hobbies, the things that are really important to me, and I would make sure that I would start incorporating those into my life in my 30s so that as I transition into retirement, that it's a very natural transition.
We're living longer lives, and people want more out of the retirement. What's your retirement mindset? It's now time for our panel's final thoughts on Retirement Redefined. Is it an event or an experience? Nadine, your thoughts?
So I definitely believe retirement is an experience, and what really is important is to not be afraid to think about retirement and really start planning early, but not just planning for financial resources, but also for your health, for what matters for you, and it's really about being intentional. What do you want to do in your life? What matters for you in your life? What are you passionate about? What do you want to achieve even after retirement? And it doesn't need to be a big thing.
Nadine, you have so much to share with us. Let's go back to Doris for her final thoughts. So Doris, what are your final thoughts?
So, for me, when I'm thinking about the most important things that I've learned during retirement, it's really about making sure that I'm clear on the me that I want to be, making sure I understand what that means financially, emotionally, physically, so that I stay healthy, so that our financial plan stays dynamic. Even though we had a financial plan and we knew that everything was fine, we were spending a lot of money. And it really made us recognize that a financial plan has to be really, really vibrant, alive, dynamic. And so we're continually going back and looking at it. So as a result of that, part of what both my husband and I are choosing to do is, as part of our retirement plan right now, we're looking at things that we're doing to earn some money, to just have some income while we're continuing to do the things that are important to us in our lives.
If you had a retirement do-over, what aspect would you change, if any?
If I had a retirement do-over, the one thing that I would do is I would start thinking probably in my 30s about those things that I'm really passionate about, and I would make sure that I would start incorporating those into my life in my 30s, in my 40s, in my 50s, so that as I transition into retirement, that it's a very natural transition.
So I hear that a lot. Retirement came a little quicker than you anticipated?
Yeah, it definitely did. It took me a little bit to just actually embrace it and see it for the opportunity it was and make it the great life that it's become.
Sounds like you're the driver of your own retirement. Last word on our subject is yours. Barbara?
Well, I think we're living in a really exciting time. We really need to reimagine retirement from the models that we grew up with as a discrete event, a time just to hang our hats up and say goodbye to the world of work. It's really an exciting time in that it's a transitional experience that may not just end when we retire. We may go back to work again. We may find that there were things that we didn't do in our last jobs that we would really like to pick up on. I mean, we really have so many chances now to create and take control of our own lives and try to decide the kind of path that we want to follow for the rest of our years.
Barbara, I hate this, but we've run out of time. I want to thank Doris, Nadine, and Barbara for taking the time to talk with us today on Money Matters. Because financial aspects touch so many elements of our lives, it pays to get great advice. Plan more and worry less.